When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Make We Talk. This evening we have with us former Minister of National Security and Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary, Robert Bobby Montaque, a man who worked hard for his people in St. Mary. This evening we're going to speak about Chief TAKYI becoming a national hero, and also we may touch on other topics as we go along, but the main topic will be Chief TAKYI. Member Montaque, can you tell us more about who Chief TAKYI is, sir?
Well, Chief TAKYI was an African chief. He was from the House of Royalty from Ghana. And the history tells us that during the time of the Atlantic trade in enslaved Africans, there was a war, a fight between the British and the Dutch for supremacy, so to make the most profits out of that trade. And as a result of that, these European powers encouraged the African kingdom of Tashima to enter into a series of civil war. And the English supported one brother and the Dutch supported another brother. And as the ascendancy between these European nations went on and off, a brother, so if the British was in the ascendancy, they would install their chief person as the chief, and as the Dutch took over, then they would install another brother. And this started sometime in 1697, 98, went on to about 1727, 28. And then the younger TAKYI, he was from the royal household, and within that conflict, there obviously was some issue, and he was the son of one of the brothers. The records show that he was shipped from Ghana into the New World, and his destination would have been Suriname. However, Jamaica being one of those early stops on the slaving route, it is felt that he was let off here, and he was acquired by the owners of the Frontier Estate in St. Mary, in Port Maria, St. Mary. But what was significant about him, the way he carried himself, the way he commanded the respect of the other enslaved Africans, prompted the proprietors at the Frontier Estate to make him into an overseer. And he is the only known African to have been appointed an overseer on a plantation. And the records show that as an overseer, he got certain privileges. He got his own horse. He was allowed to supervise. He got his own whip, and he also got a weapon, and he had his separate living quarters. So he was a man of stature on the estate. He therefore had certain benefits and privileges. So when he started his agitation, it was not for him, but it was for the other enslaved Africans and the treatment that they received. Now, it was felt that if the Europeans controlled him by giving him this position of prominence, he would be able to control the other Africans. That was not to be. He had a series of meetings, the records show, with other enslaved Africans within the Frontier Estate and surrounding estates. And then on the night of the 7th of April, 1760, he led a band of fellow enslaved Africans down Port Maria, up what was then Rector Street to up to Fort Aldane. They killed the guards that were on duty, took over the fort, took the arms that were there and the gunpowders and the ammunition. Then they marched to the Paji fishing beach, where they took the lead out of the fishing nets to be used in the muskets. Then from there, they advanced towards Trinity, took the Trinity Estate, Bailey'sville, the Oxford Estate, and took a number of other estates. However, during that time, the whites were gathered on the Ballards Valley Estate for a celebration of Easter, most of the white owners and overseers. And of course, you know, within that band of now freed Africans, one made his way to Ballards Valley to inform on the rest of his brothers and sisters. And the whites, therefore, were pre-warned. But a number of whites at that time, by that time, would have lost their lives. There was a pitched battle up at Ballards Valley as well as in Esher. And in the ensuing days, the local militia that consists of the whites and their servants were mobilized. And the TAKYI and his enslaved Africans were determined not only to free Frontier and the St. Mary estates, they were determined to establish a black-led government in Jamaica. And conflicts broke out in St. Anne, in Westmoreland, in Clarendon, in St. Catherine, and in Portland. And it therefore showed you the extent of the communication lines that he had with other enslaved Africans in these territories. Remember he would not have had the access to a telephone. He would not have had email. He would not have had WhatsApp, nor StreamYard. But he was able to communicate, establish lines of communication with other leaders, enslaved leaders across the length and breadth of Jamaica. And we need to be very careful about the record written by the British. And we should not only accept what is written and published, but also dive down into it. Because in Edward Long's record, he clearly stated that the war lasted 4 days, which it is impossible. Because the governor then, when he was notified in Spanish Town, he called his council together, which would be the equivalent of today's cabinet. They had a meeting. They declared a state of emergency. Then they declared martial law across Jamaica. They quarantined Jamaica effectively by locking down all trading. No ships could leave or enter into Jamaica. The militia in Portland was activated and in St. Anne to ensure that they contained the theater of war. They also activated the 49th Regiment and the 74th Regiment and marched them into St. Mary. One regiment came up through Spanish Town. Another regiment, some came by horse, some came by sea. And 2 warships that were stationed, one in Port Royal and one in Kingston, were moved, one into Anata Bay, one into Port Maria. Another ship with provisions was moved into Anata Bay, because by then the local militia had moved all the whites in St. Mary up to the Green Castle Estate, where they were quarantined and they were to be protected. At the time, in terms of background, we must also understand that Jamaica was the richest, the most prosperous, and the most influential British colony at the time. And that is why so many army personnel were stationed here. So they engaged TAKYI and his band of now freed enslaved Africans. And along this strip from Port Maria going into Robbins Bay, that would cover Whitehall, Esher, they had pitched battles with the whites and then the army. The Maroons of a compound were mobilized, and in Portland and Scotsall, the record shows some fought with TAKYI and some fought with the British because they were paid to return the remains of enslaved Africans. So the British Edward Long account of 4 days is impossible, because if you were to ride a horse from St. Mary to Spanish Town, then allow him in Spanish Town to gather his council, his cabinet, then to proclaim martial law, even in today's Jamaica, it would take more than 4 days to mobilize the army in modern day. So the estimate is that the war lasted for 18 months. There were a number of skirmishes. It is estimated that over 100 whites lost their life in that war, and almost 400 formerly enslaved Africans also lost their life. A number of them were shipped off. Some went into the United States. Some were tried and executed. And interestingly, to your listeners, and I see you have a co-host, one Will Rattigan has now joined us.
Yes,
interestingly,
when he heard about the topic that you're coming, and he said he has to come on to listen to the history of Chief TAKYI.
So I'm being pressed into a corner with 2 barrels blazing at me. 2 of the most eminent hosts in social media. You know, I am getting a little nervous, because when Tavares alone is there and they're now joined by Will Rattigan, I know I'm in serious problems.
Well, Minister, let me tell you something. You know, them tell me, a man tell me one time, he said, I went to interview this person. He said, listen, if I say 1 FBI agent, that agent needs help and need information. But if I say 2 FBI agents, I need help. So
that is correct. So
no. I tell you what, sorry to interrupt you. What happened is that I vaguely remember hearing about TAKYI when I was in primary school. And so when Jeffrey told me that he was going to have you on and you were going to discuss this, I said, I need to know more about my history. So I said, let me come on, because I know if you are promoting it, then it must be good, because you're not a man who just willy-nilly said things. You said things after doing your research. So that's why I figure, well, if I'm going to learn about TAKYI, then tonight is the night. But no, we're not ganging up on you, man. No, sir.
Well, as I was saying, it is felt, well, welcome, Will, welcome. It is felt that he led this war, and during the pitch battles, a number of his lieutenants were shot and injured. He himself, the records show, was shot in a skirmish near to Robbins Bay. And it is felt he traveled, he was being pursued by some of the soldiers and the Maroons. He turned up in the Islington area and he rode down beside along a river, came down beside a waterfall, and he disappeared. And the British couldn't understand. And then they started the rumor that he had died, but he was injured. And he recuperated in a cave behind the waterfall. That waterfall is known today as the TAKYI Falls up in Islington. And if you go by TAKYI Falls and go behind the waterfall, you will see this cave that it was felt that he recuperated and rejoined the war. At the time, when the Brits caught formerly enslaved Africans in the skirmishes, they would torture them for information. And one of the things that they had on their side were medicine men. Today we call them Obeah. And it was felt that they had a lot of power, and the British were very concerned about it. And they had a concerted operation up in the Dowers Cove area, in what is known as now Cove, between Cove and Robbins Bay. And they captured the chief medicine man that was back in TAKYI and paraded him. It was more psychological and trying to break the spirits. And they would torture them publicly, so other enslaved Africans in St. Mary would not join them. They arrested arbitrarily a number of persons, and the records show that they put them on a ship that brought provisions for whites who were being held at Greencastle Estate. And they used that ship after the provisions were taken off as a prisoner ship. Now, the records in Jamaica showed 8 enslaved Africans who were tried in Port Maria, and they had what you call a police record. that record existed for years. And when I was a senator, and I think in about 2015, myself, along with the now president of the Jamaican Senate, Tom Tavares Finson, crafted a resolution seeking an expungement of their record, along with the Right Honorable, Right Excellence, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, because up to then, Marcus Garvey had a criminal record in Jamaica. It was ironic that we were asking the United States president to pardon Marcus Garvey, yet in the land of his birth, he had a criminal record. That motion was not successful in the Senate at the time. But thank God, the JLP won the elections in 2016, and we handed that motion to now Minister Olivia Babsy Grange, and she took it with my support in the lower house. It was passed, and therefore the records of the Right Excellence Marcus Mosiah Garvey was expunged, along with the 8 formerly enslaved Africans who fought alongside TAKYI. Those records were expunged. So if a university student or a researcher would check our records, Marcus Garvey no longer has a criminal record. And the 8 persons who were named as being a part of the TAKYI, and some people call it the TAKYI War, pronounce the name TAKYI, their records were expunged. So that's a major hurdle in having him named as a national hero. Now, what was the significance of this war? It was the first.
Before you go there, member Montaque, what I want to find out is, you give us all that history of TAKYI. What pushed you, as a man from St. Mary, a citizen of St. Mary, what pushed you now for you to be saying that TAKYI should be named national hero? People are questioning the idea of that, and they're saying, what about a Bob Marley, a Louis Bennett Coverley, or even a Jeffrey Tavares?
Well, I would not take anything away from anybody, and anybody who wants to promote somebody to be a national hero or to have any award. That's not my mission. My mission is to promote Chief TAKYI, and if others would wish to promote other persons, they are free, and I would never stand in anybody's way. I am making a case for my nominee, and that doesn't stop somebody else from making a case for their nominee. I was born in Islington, in St. Mary, where the bulk of the TAKYI War was fought, and where there's a significant body of oral history. And this is something we ought not to dilute or discount our oral history. We spend too much time relying on a history written by our conquerors, by the British, without checking out the real history that has been lived by our people. When I was growing up, my mother always instilled on us that we should never come into her house to speak about slaves and that we were slaves. We couldn't do it because it was been instilled in me that we were a people that were enslaved. It's totally different from being a slave. And she told us the oral history because my mother's father is a Maroon. So I am what is called a quarter Maroon. So we got that story from the oral history. And we were grown never to refer to that period in our history of as slaves, because Jamaica being one of the first stops in the transatlantic route, they let off what was the British would call troublemakers in Jamaica. Who were these troublemakers? These were the persons that were captured in the civil wars, as I told you about, in Africa by other Africans. These were the leaders, the generals, the priests, the children of royal household, who never grew, never understood, never accepted subjugation. They were leaders. They never knew what it is to be subjects. So on the ships, they were always protesting. And that is why, for all the years of enslavement in Jamaica, there was some kind of rebellion pushing against the yoke of enslavement. We never accepted enslavement in Jamaica. Never. And therefore, the house I grew up in was always instilled in me that we are not the descendants of slaves. We are from a royal priesthood, a nation specially called. We are royalty here in Jamaica. We were enslaved by conquerors. We are never slaves. And the idea that TAKYI exposed was for freedom, equality, and self-determination. He wanted to lead a black-led government of Jamaica, not of St. Mary, but of Jamaica, so that we could benefit from the sweat of our brows, the beatings that we got, the humiliation, the denigration, but we would govern for our own benefit. This was a man who stood tall. This was a man who carried himself, that even the whites, when he just came, feared him. After the war, the enslaved Africans were subjected to greater punishment. The record shows that the British passed a number of legislative acts that put undue pressure upon the Jamaican population of the time. Because we were the most successful colony, they then repeated these acts, legislative acts, in other colonies, including where Wilfred lives, the then 13 colonies of the Americas. It is these repressive laws, one of which increased the stamp duty to have a standing British army, to pay for a standing British army, for them to stop another rebellion, that the 13 colonies rose up against the British and declared the American War of Independence, influenced the long shadows of Chief TAKYI's war, influenced that war. Years after TAKYI's war, there was an uprising in Portland and St. Anne, and the British records show that the influence of TAKYI and the ideas of TAKYI were seen and heard when they tortured those that were captured. So what was happening was that long after the war, the enslaved Africans who were here when they newly arrived came, they told them of this great man and what he was doing. So the spirit lived on. Even today in St. Mary, that spirit lives on, and the oral history is told. In 2007, Prime Minister Golden established a committee to look at the Order of National Hero and other orders, to do a review. It was chaired by the eminent Professor Rex Nedleford. And that committee, in its report to Parliament, looked at three names: the Honorable Louise Bennett Coverley, the Honorable Robert Nestor Marley, and Chief TAKYI. They felt, because the law on National Hero, the National Hero Award, states that it has to be conferred on a person who is Jamaican, dead or alive, who would have contributed significantly to the freedom of the island and the removal of colonialism before 1962. That's what the law says. So Bob Marley and Louise Bennett Coverley would not have qualified on that. And the committee therefore said they did not reject Chief TAKYI, but not enough was known about him at the time. Since then, a number of academics have published, researched, and published excellent materials. Professor Vincent Brown of Harvard University published this book.
Yes, I was reading upon something that a while ago.
Yes. And Enoch TAKYI, a descendant of Chief TAKYI from Ghana, on Saturday launched this book, Chief TAKYI, yes, The Breaker of Chains. Professor Verone Shepherd of the University of the West Indies has a lot of research papers. Professor Orville Taylor of the University of the West Indies. And there have been numerous Jamaican, Ghanaian, United States professors who have come to St. Mary since we declared April 8th Chief TAKYI Day in St. Mary, and we always had a TAKYI lecture. And last year, Minister Olivia Grange got our Governor General to claim April 8th as a national Chief TAKYI Day, not no longer St. Mary Day. It's now national. But in 2004, when I was the mayor of Port Maria, when I had the privilege of being the mayor of Port Maria, we changed the parish awards that is given out to outstanding citizens every October. We changed it to the Chief TAKYI Award. The current mayor, who was my deputy, Richard Creary, renamed Rectory Street Chief TAKYI Street, where Fort Hall Lane was, where the first skirmish in the war started. And I must pay homage and tribute to Derek Black X Robinson, who has walked the talk. Black X, over the years, have walked from St. Mary to King's House, has walked to the Parliament, sometimes in chain, bringing attention to the worth and the work of Chief TAKYI. It is, in my view, full time, and I think the time is right, because over 15 years of lectures have happened in St. Mary, a number of research, so we have now collated the history, looking at the oral history, looking at what is written, looking back into the research papers, and people from eminent universities have published papers. And Chief TAKYI's war influenced the Maroons and how they acted. Chief TAKYI's war influenced Sam Sharp. It was Chief TAKYI's shoulder that Marcus Garvey stood on to shout to the world about Black economic independence and Black unity and Black power. It is those ideas that influenced Sir Alexander Bustamante and Norman Manley to push us on the independence movement to self-governance. It was the ideas of Chief TAKYI's war have been manifested in the Haitian Revolution, because some of the enslaved fought with Chief TAKYI were shipped to Haiti. So Chief TAKYI's contribution has stood the test of time. And he dreamt of a day when enslaved Africans would be in charge of their own destiny. The ideas that he laid down, laid the foundation. This was the biggest war in our history, the biggest war in our history. Over 100 whites lost their lives. No other recorded event in our history tell us that. This was a general par excellence. This man is deserving of an honor. He has never received a national honor. And we wish not to take away anything from anybody. We wish to make a case on the facts, on his contribution, and what he has done.
So that is why you have decided that at some appropriate time, you'll be going to Parliament to pass legislation for them to name a national hero.
No, I'll be going to Parliament with a private member's motion to trigger the provisions of the National Honors and Awards Act, which clearly, Section 5 clearly states that a committee must be established to research and review information on anybody who is nominated or, in the opinion of the committee, is deserving, and they do their research against the established standards, and they recommend to the Prime Minister if the person is deserving or not. The Rex Nedleford report said that the government should employ a researcher to collate the facts about Chief TAKYI. We don't need to do that. Professor Vincent Brown has done that. Professor Verone Shepherd has done that. Enoch TAKYI has done that. Numerous other persons out of Ghana, out of the United States and Jamaica, including Professor Orville Taylor, has done that. And Orville Taylor, Verone Shepherd, they have given their lectures at the Chief TAKYI celebration in St. Mary. So now there is a huge body of academic research about the work of Chief TAKYI, the ideas, the ideals, the principles of this man. And so that there no need to employ a researcher to do the work. The work, the body is there, the oral history is there. The people are ready. Chief TAKYI is not a St. Mary hero. He's not a LP hero. He's not a PNP hero. He's even bigger than being a Jamaican hero. He's a world chief. He has influenced the American Revolution. He influenced world history because the British Empire, at its might, one African chief took on the biggest army in the world at the time, took on the biggest navy in the world at the time, locked down commerce in and out of Jamaica, international commerce, had the whites evacuated from their homes to be held in quarantine on an estate, had 2 regiments of the British Army moving into the theater of war to treat with him. That is not an ordinary man. This man is the only African in British recorded history to have been named an overseer of an estate. Chief TAKYI did not fight for benefits to himself. He wanted to improve the lot of his other Africans.
Mr. Rattigan, we have a question for member Montaque, or should I? You know, I always call him Minister Montaque, but now, you know, he's saying I shouldn't call him minister at all, just a member, because he's not a minister anymore. But member Montaque?
Yes, sir.
Mr. I'm not hearing you.
Does he preach the word?
Yes, sir, I do. I preach the word of
prosperity. Well, minister, we can call him minister then. So.
I preach the word of prosperity.
All right, so we'll call him minister. Listen, Minister Montaque, again, good evening to you, good evening to Jeffrey, and good evening to the listening and viewing audience. Sorry to be late, but Jeff knows why I'm late. The first question is this. Most people, I would venture to say, in Jamaica, never heard of TAKYI, especially the now generation, never heard of him because it's not being taught in our schools. And as I said, there's oral history, but if you don't come from that part of the country where that oral history is transmitted, you would never know. Have you done any informal research to see how this is going to go over with the panel? Because they said you're going to go to Parliament to trigger that panel to consider him. Have you done any research or anything like that? Polling, for example, to say how is this going to go over? Is this something that will be accepted, or is it I'm just wasting time?
No, I'm not. I've not done any polling, but I know I'm not wasting time because we are at a point in our history where we have to reflect internally on who we are. We must reflect on where we are coming from, where we are, and where we want to go. We are calling for reparations to right the wrongs of enslavement. But within us, there is a yearning for our own story, our own history, because those that write the history will forever be the conquerors. And when we are taught in school that TAKYI's war lasts 4 days, it's not true. Just cursory facts shows you that that war could not have lasted 4 days. But when you challenge written and established and accepted history, you have to have facts. And this body of academic research challenges Edward Long's story, because even Edward Long's papers were reviewed and some of his notes were reviewed, and he deliberately left out very critical parts of the story because they never made the British look good. And his recording was to make the British look good. So they never of the skirmishes, of the loss of life of the British. They only told you of the loss of life of the enslaved Africans. We are at a point 60 years in our independence and self-governance where we must confront our history. We must confront that history to tell the world who we are because Jamaicans, anywhere you go in the world, always stand tall. We are always noticed because we stand up for the little man. We stand up for those who are wronged. Jamaicans don't use the back door. We proudly walk through the front door because we are first-class citizens. We see ourselves. When you look in the mirror, we brace our shoulders. We are proud. And we stand tall anywhere we go in the world. Where did that come from? Because we are a diverse people brought here, strong warriors. And interestingly, because of the TAKYI War, the British shifted where they sourced enslaved Africans. They went south. They moved from Ghana and went south. And that is how the Igbo people began to come into Jamaica because they are more docile than those persons, the Ashanti and the FAO, coming out of Ghana. And therefore, the shift was made. And because we're early on the stops, they would let off, as they to say, the troublemakers. These troublemakers are the priests, the princes, the kings, the generals. That's in our DNA. And that is why a Jamaican will go anywhere in the world and stand up and tell the world, hey, I'm a Jamaican. That is why you go anywhere in the world, Wilfred and Jeffrey, and you instantly, if you go to New York, we're the United Nations, and see the 200 odd flags of the world, instantly you can pick out the Jamaican flag because every other flag has one of three colors: white, red, or blue. The Jamaican flag is the only flag in the world that has none of those colors. We stand on our own. Chief TAKYI stands on his own.
Well, I tell you what.
We're going to say, Will. We're going to say, and that is why the late Michael Manley said that we will not crawl on our hands, but we'll walk on our feet. Go ahead, Wilfred Rattigan.
No, just listen to the description that you have provided, Minister, regarding Chief TAKYI. I feel like I can claim him as my own because my mother used to tell me that my grandmother was a Maroon. I can't prove it. But based on what you're telling me tonight and the way how I conduct my life and how I stand up for truth and justice and right and liberty, I feel like me I want to attack them descendant, you know? And I will proudly
claim it, my brother, claim it.
Yeah, and if there's anything we can do to support you from the diaspora, we definitely will, because it's important for us to not lose that part of our history. But let me ask you this. How do you feel? We always, when we talk about national heroes, we talk about people who dead and gone and leave a legacy. What do you feel about a living national hero? How do you? What are your thoughts on that?
We have had a living national hero. Sir Alexander Bustamante was named a national hero while he was alive. But personally, when you look at the report of Professor Nedelfoot, that report made a recommendation for a new category. Because when the National Hero Award was conceived, it was conceived for persons who contributed before 1962. So technically, the award should be retired. And another award instituted for persons who have contributed after 1962, or you change the law. But the law is what it is now. Until it is changed, we have to just work with it. And they recommended to have a new award known as the Jamaican Icon. That would be now for persons who had bought their contribution after 1962. So this is where, for example, a Jeffrey Tavares could contend, a Wilfred Rattigan could contend, Louise Bennett, a Bob Marley could contend, Dennis Brown could contend.
But would it be on the same level as a national hero or just below?
Yes.
Same level.
Yes. That was the recommendation. That was the recommendation of Professor Nedelfoot. Because we have to be mindful that history marches on. And that era before 1962 is there, must be respected. We must draw from it and learn from it. But we must also open the doors post 1962. Okay. And then there will be coming a time when we'll have to close another chapter to move to another chapter.
Okay.
So that we ought not only must we draw clear lines, but we must draw on that, because you opened by saying a lot of younger Jamaicans don't recognize the worth of TAKYI. The window, in my view, is closing on how to make that correction, not being only academic, but being practical. Because a lot of our young people are drifting because there's so much noise coming at them that they are not properly grounded in who they are. So much noise from all ways, walks, that we need to pause.
You know what? I think, you know, if you I don't know what your political plans are, but if you run in the next election and your party wins, I would definitely nominate you. I could see you as Minister of Culture, because you have such a vast history of what's going on, not only with just the historical facts, but also the cultural facts as well. And we need somebody like you to preserve and advance our history. Not somebody who go and just look pretty in the position. But having said that, let me ask you this. You mentioned...
Well, let me answer that first, sir. Yeah. Let me answer that, okay, sir. I'm not going to get away with that. My colleague, Babsy Olivia Gray, is doing a phenomenal job. An excellent job. I know you never said that. I am saying it. You are not saying it. I am saying it. And the work that Olivia Grange has done in culture, sports, gender affairs, and entertainment can never and must never be discounted. And you did not discount it. You didn't discount it. But I don't want it to be discounted.
Well, because let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you think you could do a better job?
I am a servant.
No, sir. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Let me finish. You ask me a question. Allow me an opportunity to answer.
Just answer. No, answer yes or no, and then you can explain. Do you think you could do a better job?
Sir, yes or no? You are a retired FBI agent. Retired is the operative word.
I'm a lawyer. I'm a present lawyer.
I am not in court. I am not in court. I am a guest on Jeffrey's program.
Yes. What do we do with
the Prime Minister? If the Prime Minister, in his wisdom, favors me by giving me a ministerial appointment, I will do the best that I can to execute that and to have his confidence rewarded.
All right. Well, here's the thing. What we're seeing, and this is a slight shift from Chief TAKYI.
We're not shifting. I told Jeffrey specifically. We're speaking about Chief TAKYI.
No. Yeah, we're talking about Chief TAKYI.
I am not going to allow you to whittle around.
No. We're talking about Chief TAKYI.
And by the way, my time, I have about 10 more minutes with you.
Oh, you have a dig off left me, I'm just come, man.
No, I have been here almost an hour.
Hold on, remember, Montague. No, you never tell me that you're going to come on for a short period of time.
No, I did.
No, I did. By the way, how come you come on my program? How come I ask you not come on my program? I send you an invitation all the time, you know, come.
Yes, yes.
Me and timing. You come from Chief TAKYI, DNA.
Mr. Rattigan, timing is important. Jeffrey has been asking me long before you. I am with Jeffrey now. So hold faith and have hope.
All right, sir. But here's the thing. No, the reason why I mentioned that to you is this, right? We've seen examples where we have square pegs. And I know you're not gonna comment. I don't want you to comment. I'm just making an observation. Where we have square peg in round holes, meaning that we have people in ministerial positions. And I think deep down, and I know you're not gonna answer, I'm not asking you to answer, but I know deep down you know this to be a fact, that we have people in ministerial positions who shouldn't be there. Not that they're not qualified to do something else, but the position that they occupy, they're not qualified to do it. And that's why I'm saying for you, I think that would be an outstanding position for you to occupy. But be that as it may, like you said, whenever the Prime Minister, whatever he decides to appoint you, you'll do the best, and I'm sure you're gonna do the best.
Well, Wilfred, let me just say this. Let me just say this to you and to your listeners. When persons get up from their verandas and living rooms and enter the field of play to become public servants, to offer themselves to be examined, to be ripped apart, for everybody to have an opinion on them, for everybody to have a story on them, for people to willfully start stories and all of that. When people enter the field of play, I give them a round of applause, because it is easy to criticize. It is easy to stay in the stands and say what shot the batsman should play and what card the domino player should play. When you sit in that chair around the domino table, when you put on your bat and your pad and you go into the square, it's an entirely different thing. These persons put themselves forward. The public voted for them. We have many persons today who have opinions, but they have never been examined by the public nor endorsed by the public. And even when a person run and lose, I have a lot of respect for them.
Right.
Because persons went out and endorsed them.
All right.
And we are not to discount that.
No, we're not to discount that. But you have to, sometimes, you know, what you have to do, you have to call facts as you see them. And one of the things that I've come to learn in life is that I don't have to hit my head against the wall to know it's going to hurt me, because I can see from common sense, I can see what's going on. Similarly, when you look at somebody how they're performing, you don't have to be in their position to realize that, no, this person is not performing admirably. They're not performing up to the standard that we expect them to perform. And no,
but we are here to discuss Chief TAKYI, and he has performed admirably.
And that's what I'm talking about, that we should be like, our leaders should be like Chief TAKYI. Leaders should lead. And we have some leaders now, they're retreating. And that's the point I'm trying to make, that Chief TAKYI is an exemplary person that we should convey and provide all of the accolades that we can, including making him a national hero. But at the same time, we have to look at Chief TAKYI and say, okay, we have Chief TAKYI who fought from the front, right, and almost lost his life. And like you say, he hid behind the waterfall, right? He had to take cover, but nevertheless, he continued to fight. And then at the same time, you look and say, well, what do we have today? And we have leaders today, but not all of the people occupying a leadership role can be considered leaders. And I'm sure you'll agree with me on that. I'm sure
I will respect your opinion on the matter.
And you will agree with me on that as well.
I will respect your opinion. Mr. Jeffrey, you brought me here to be criticized by Mr. Rattigan.
No, I'd never do that. I'd never do that. No, Jeffrey, I tease him. I tease him.
No, Jeffrey, he brought me here because if you listen carefully to the gentleman, he criticism on me.
No, man. No, Montaque. He was just saying something to you, man.
No, man, I joke, man. No, actually, you know why, Minister Montaque, and I'll continue to call you Minister because you're a preacher of the word. The reason why Jeffrey had me on two things. One is for Chief TAKYI, because I told him I didn't know anything about Chief TAKYI, and it would be interesting to hear the story about him. And two, he wanted me to come on and also and make an announcement regarding something that I did today. It has nothing to do with you. And again, I mean,
but I want to ask you to hold that announcement so you can wrap up with me, grill me, beat me up, and then throw me out.
You want me to grill you?
Well, you have started, but I'm watching the time.
You can continue.
I'm watching the time.
No.
I've just indicated to my staff that I'll give you a couple more minutes.
No, what I will say at this point is that you've been a distinguished servant, especially when compared to others. I won't say past or present, and so it's always a pleasure listening to you. It's the first time I'm actually talking to you, looking at you, and I was hoping we could stay on longer, but I understand that time is at a premium and you have to go. But
no, I'm told that I have another 10-15 minutes.
Oh,
because I'm going to a meeting. We're doing a resettlement program for some persons who are not properly settled on some lands, and we're having a update meeting with them. And it is very important to them. I don't want any of them to rise up on me to become another Chief TAKYI.
Let me ask you this regarding the resettlement program and all of that. No, you're very active in your community, no doubt.
You're in his constituency, yes, he is.
No, he's very active. I mean, I keep tabs on him. He's very active.
And Ratty, before you answer that, before you ask that question, I must say publicly tonight here that every single thing that is done in Western St. Mary, if it does not send by member Montaque to me, my good friend, my producer, who is the producer of Make We Talk from Roots FM, Owen Brown, is from St. Mary. And he always said to me, Jeffrey, have you seen this, what Robert Montaque is doing? I said, what is it? And he showed it to me. Every birthday party, the other day, he sent me a picture of a 100 and some year old lady. Was it that?
100, Beryl Taylor.
Yes.
She celebrated 100 years about 3 weeks ago. Beautiful lady.
He's doing a great job in this community, Mr. Rattigan. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that from all accounts, he's very active in his community. And what I'd like to ask him, in the spirit of TAKYI, as a leader, have you, because there are lots of people failing in Jamaica, but in their constituencies, have you reached out to any of these people and kind of like, show them best practices to say, look, I see where you could use some help, and this is what I'm doing in my community. Maybe you should try it. Or do you just concentrate only on your community and you don't care about anybody else? Whatever them do, it's for them business.
I could not do that, sir, because as the chairman of the greatest party in the Western Hemisphere, the Jamaica Labour Party, I have a duty of care to help to mentor, to help share best practice, to listen to the frustrations of some of my colleagues, to hear of their disappointments, their successes, and their achievements. So after all of that, I will say yes, because I know you like the yes or no answer. So the answer is yes.
No, what's even more important to me is the explanation, to be honest with you.
and within the JLP, we have a number of institutions within the party. The Parliamentary Caucus, Standing Committee, the Central Executive. We have 17 committees of the party, membership fundraising where new members are a part of. I can always come up to myself or any of the officers or any of the senior members if they're having a particular difficulty, if they need help. The other day I went down to Hanover to engage persons for one of our MPs there. I was at Era Council 3 recently to engage and doing a training program. I head a although Beerman, I also volunteer to head our training program because we have a mission to train our members and representatives, because we are of the view, if you are going to represent the party, there has to be a formal training, imparting of knowledge. We are not going to assume that persons know. We are going to teach that the achievement of the Jamaica Labour Party, so you can go there and represent the party, standing on your 2 feet.
Well, let me ask you this question. Now that you mentioned the party, and you said that the party is the greatest party in the Western Hemisphere.
We're talking about Chief TAKYI.
Yeah, but you just mentioned the party. You just said that you represent
yes,
the greatest
sir.
party in the Western Hemisphere.
And
right?
it is.
Right. And I said I won't argue with you, but the greatest party in the Western Hemisphere made some pledges and promises to the Jamaican people that they would accomplish within the first 100 days. Tabling bills to remove the monarchy, the term limits,
and impeachment.
Term limits for the position of prime minister, impeachment, and there are several others that the party made. This was back in 2016, and so far we haven't seen any of those. Now, my good friend Jeffrey Tavares, when the prime minister was here last year, he asked him this question. He said, in 2016, the party, by way of you, sir, said that you would put a bill to limit term limits. And here's it that 4 years later, 6 years later, it was last year. 6 years, we haven't seen it. So why was it important to be in the manifesto in 2016? But it's not accomplished. And the answer he gave to Mr. Tavares, and I remember it as if it happened yesterday. He said, in 2016, that was on the manifesto. In 2020, it was not on the manifesto. So the question I wanted to ask him that the organizers wouldn't allow me to ask him was, why was it important to be on the manifesto in 2016, but not on 2020? What changed? And if you said you're going to do it within the first 100 days, and you couldn't do it for the first 100 days because of COVID, because of hurricane, because of lightning strike, because of whatever, you still had 4 years that you could have done it. And now it's 6 years later and it hasn't been done. Now I just put that to you. I'm not, and again, I'm not putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer it. It's just an observation that you said that, you know, the greatest party in the Western Hemisphere. And I'm saying, well, the greatest party in Western Hemisphere made some great promises, and those promises have not been fulfilled. So
equally, Mr. Rattigan, I'm sure you will understand that we have also achieved some things that we did not promise.
Well, look, here's let me just interrupt you one quick second. Well, the thing about it is this: achieving things that weren't promised, that's okay. You didn't promise anybody, so you surprised them. But when you promise people something, people have an expectation. And when that expectation, when it don't fulfill for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, people get frustrated. And I'm sure you understand that. I know you agree with me deep down, you know, some of the things I say, but I understand that, you know, for whatever reason, you just say, hey, listen, no, I'm not going to agree with him. You know, me agree with him in my heart and in my mind, but not out of my mouth.
You see, Jeffrey, Mr. Rattigan is trying to put words in my mouth.
Never.
And my dear mother of blessed memory, would tell you that you don't put words in her son's mouth. However, the point you made in terms of the expectation of people, it's very valid. And persons had an expectation, and the party recognizes that. And although a number of those things were not in our 2020 manifesto, you need to understand that when you put things in a manifesto, you take it to people, you have a discussion, which is a political campaign, and therefore the people get to understand the issues that you are campaigning and get to hold you to account. There are a number of reasons why we were not able to fulfill all that was pledged. For example, removing the monarch. 6 years, yes, but we are now in the process. We have established a Ministry of Legal Affairs and Constitutional Affairs, and we are doing now the background work to get that done. So yes, we missed the deadline. For example, Mason Hall in my community, there has been a commitment to provide water to that community. We have hit a number of snags along the way, but the commitment still stands. For example, all the pipes for that project actually has been bought and is in storage, but you run into issues with land. And one of the things I have said is, while the government has the power to take over land, it is best if you negotiate, because sometimes these things leave a bitter taste, which sometimes passes through generations. And because I intend to be member of parliament for a mighty long time, I would rather we negotiate difficult and thorny issues rather than use the big stick of government to beat somebody on their head and take away rightfully what belongs to them and their family and future generations. If you just 1 second, I see my battery light blinking.
All right, before it don't blink, one quick question.
If you allow me to just 1 second, let me just slip in a charger.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
We're speaking to former Minister of National Security, Robert Bobby Montaque. We wish we could speak to him about other issues, but he, told me that no, it's only about Chief TAKYI.
I have a question. I have a TAKYI question.
To speak some more, but go ahead, Mr. Rattigan. Go ahead.
No, TAKYI was a leader, and a leader by definition means that you will have to have a presence, you will have to have a position, because you will have dissension in the ranks. No matter who you are, you will have dissension. People will always disagree, whether openly or otherwise. People always voice some dissension or disagreement with things that you're doing. No. Let me ask you this, sir. The greatest party in the world, if there is one thing, put yourself in a TAKYI position, if there's one thing that somebody you think would criticize you as TAKYI of this government, what would it be and how would you address that issue?
One of the things that I believe persons, and we have to be very clear and honest, persons would criticize us about is the slow pace of implementation of a number of our projects. And that would be a very, very justified criticism, because we do suffer from an implementation deficit. Because, for example, in trying to promote transparency and accountability, in going through, for example, the various stages of procurement, it holds up a lot of projects. So, for example, I did a study recently looking at what is holding up projects, the end result. You announce a project, people's expectations are high, but then the anti-corruption, the transparency standards, the accountability issues, there are certain steps that has to be taken. And when we went through at a very optimistic look, it takes you, for major projects, it takes you 2.5 years before you can put shovel into ground. That is in going through the different regulatory systems and steps. Now, can persons wait so long?
Right.
But if you modify that, you now run into another body of opinion where people now accuse you of being corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be a balance. And we ran into this. For example, when I was at, Jeffrey knows me well, when I was at transport and mining, we had a problem in getting buses for the JUTC because we took too long to order. This, we know in the country, we had buses that are running an average of 15 years old, 5 over the life expectancy of these buses.
Put your camera in the center. Minister, hold a minute. Put the camera in the center because it's cut in half. Half gonna paint me, half gonna JLP.
No, I know the paint would love to have my half. And half of me in the PNP is about 6 of them. I'm kidding, I don't want nobody texting me. I'm joking, comrades. I'm just joking. Please. Me. Today, let me just clear it, comrades. Today I went to 4 grave diggings in my constituency, and fortunately or unfortunately, 4 of them were senior comrades. But I was there paying my respect, so I was just running a joke. I know people are very sensitive. Now, we went to tender on the 50 buses. You have to set a tender. It has to be out there for a minimum of, I think, 45 days to 60 days. Then it's evaluated. The first round, Wilfred, we got no takers, nobody tendered. So you wasted 2 months. Then you have to go back, revise that, go back to tender. Then it has to be evaluated. Then once evaluation, and it goes through so many different steps, and then after that it goes to PPC. Then after PPC, it has to go to PIMSEC at the Ministry of Finance. That whole process takes about 10 months. What is happening in the meantime? Persons are standing up at Alfred Tree and in Portmore and in Stony Hill can't get buses. But if you short circuit the process, you hear that man, you give contract to his friend Wilfred and Steve, them want to give government money. So we do have an implementation deficit. And that is something I know the cabinet and the prime minister as well and is moving to treat with that situation. So yes, we would take that criticism.
All right. Let me.
For example, one second, Wilfred, 1 second, just an example. Yesterday, the Auditor General and the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health went at it in the Parliament about the procedures used to secure rooms, hotel rooms for persons you're going to put in quarantine, persons who are traveling in Jamaica. Do you, in the midst in the Ministry of Health, do you, in the midst of a pandemic, have to go through that, all the I's cross, all the T's, go and get a second opinion while people are flying into the country, coming in by boat, want the rooms, the hotels were closed. So yes, you have to have accountability, but you also need to move with speed and alacrity. And that's the balance.
Well, that's why, let's go back to Chief TAKYI again. This would never happen under Chief TAKYI. You know why? Because Chief TAKYI was a proactive person. He wasn't a reactive person. And if they had implemented what I was preaching I even preached this to the Prime Minister at Vale Royal for 2.5 hours. I said to him, you need an intelligence center. You need a fusion center, because the purpose of a fusion center would be something like this, like exactly this. People there would look across the globe and say that, okay, there's a problem happening in China called Corona, and it's spreading. What we need to do right now is that we need to prepare ourselves before it gets here. We don't wait for it to come, and then we try and take action. And they didn't do that. And that is one of my main criticisms of Jamaica. And it dovetails with what you're saying, is that we're reactive. We're not proactive. Worse yet, we're not predictive. But let me ask you this.
Before you ask, yes, we had a center, not a fusion center. We never called it that. We had a COVID cabinet, it was referred to. And it had a secretariat. And we brought in various experts. That is why we were able to source our vaccines, because we looked at the trends. We looked at what was happening in other jurisdictions. We tried to use good practice. We also had to develop certain practices while you're on your feet, because some things you just could not predict in the midst of a pandemic. So, but I take your point that we need to develop this culture of predicting. But then again, government systems don't facilitate that. It tells you that after you do the thing, this is X, Y, and Z. So the wiggle room for creativity, for example, creativity in government is something that is stifled by the rules. Because the first thing you're going to hear is, where has it been tried before? If you want to buy a new bus, oh, this bus, has it been tested? Who has used this bus before? So one of the things I was pushing, and I don't know sure if Jeffrey knows, is I was trying to forge a relationship with the Nigerians to buy buses from the Nigerians. But if I had gone ahead as minister and just given an order to the Nigerians, you hear that me thief, me corrupt, because must be a man me know, and maybe him and my friend, and Wilfred used to be in Africa, and because Wilfred in Africa, Wilfred and me know a man, and you get that. So there has to be balance. Yes, some of those queries are valid based on experience in the past. So I have no difficulty in addressing that, but there has to be a balance. The pendulum cannot be swung in any one direction. There must be a balance. And the underriding principle must be benefit to the people.
All right. Let me ask you this question. I know Jeffrey wants to ask you a question. Jeffrey, let me ask the minister this question. Minister, I'm going to turn it around now and ask you to ask us a question. What question do you have for us in the diaspora?
The question I would like to ask, what are some of your suggestions for solutions to the difficulties that face us as a nation?
Well, that's a broad question, and we could go on for this. Can you address me in a particular area? Just box me in. Give me a particular area. Give me a particular area.
I would ask you to look at the question of investments into Jamaica, especially by persons in the diaspora.
Okay. No, what you just done, you asked me the question, the same question in a different way, because say if you ask about that, I forgot to touch crime, I forgot to touch this, I forgot to touch that.
It is now 9:15.
You're truly a TAKYI man. You're a man from TAKYI one art. But here's the thing.
I have 5 more minutes. My people are going to kill me.
Yeah, but I have a question to ask you before you leave, though, Minister.
Let me just address this thing quickly, Jeffrey. The number one factor affecting investment in Jamaica is crime. We all know that. And so the idea that we're trying to contain crime it should be paramount. That should be paramount in importance. But it's not. Take, for example, when you have the Prime Minister and the police commissioner coming up to meet with the FBI, DEA, ATF, and the others in Washington, D.C., close to where I live. Actually, I used to work at FBI headquarters, and you don't have the Minister of National Security there. That's his portfolio. That sends up flags right away. When you have the Prime Minister going to Trinidad to discuss crime.
Sir, I asked you about solutions, and you're criticizing.
No, but hold on a second. Before we can, no, here's the solution. this before you can talk about the solution, you have to talk about what the problem is in order to talk about the solution. You just can't talk about solutions. So
yeah, but Mr. Rattigan, you have been talking about the problems for a mighty long time.
Here's the first problem. How about this? Here's the first problem. First problem: remove the square pegs that are trying to fit in a round hole. Start with the leaders. You put people who are competent, people who are passionate, people who know what they're doing, people with the skill set, people with the contacts, and people who are leaders. Not politicians necessarily, but leaders. What do I mean by that specifically? You remove the Minister of National Security with a 93% disapproval rating. You remove him. Any other place in the world, he would be discharged of his duties. You remove the police commissioner, 91% disapproval rating. Anywhere in the Western world with that kind of disapproval rating, you remove him. There are qualified people in Jamaica to do this job. You don't look to the you don't have to look to the diaspora for assistance in terms of sitting in those seats, because the JCF, I know this for a fact, the JCF has highly qualified people who can run that organization. The Ministry of National Security, they are qualified people in Jamaica who can do it. So why are we sticking around with these people with these high disapproval ratings, and they're coming up with policies that are going nowhere? They tell you about, by the way, they talk about states of emergency. That's a blatant violation of the Constitution, because the Constitution provides for states of emergency in only 3 situations: insurgency, war, and natural disaster, not crime fighting. I read this Constitution up to last week. Crime fighting is mentioned in there. Yet we find that we're using it. What that tells me is that there is a deficit in terms of actual crime fighting. There isn't. So to answer your question about fighting crime, get rid of the lead. Then another thing is Jamaica's natural borders, Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. Here's what I would do, what I've seen done in the FBI, and it worked magnificently. What I would do, the High Commission, the High Command up there, dead weight, get rid of them. I don't need them. All I need is maybe 1 or 2 people. And what I do, I put 1 person in charge of Cornwall, 1 in charge of Middlesex, 1 in charge of Surrey. Every morning at 8 o'clock, you report to me. We have a teleconference. You tell me what happened in the last 24 hours in your county. And then you also tell me what you're going to do in the next 24 hours. And any day I tell you what's going on in your county and you don't know, that's the day I'm going to move you. I can't, it's hard to fire civil servants, but I'm going to move you and put you in charge of the horses, the equine unit, or the motorcycle unit, or put you in charge of the supplies, or something like that. That's where I'm going to put you. I'll put you in charge of ticketing, but not in terms of crime fighting.
Mr. Rattigan, I will say this as my final thing before I take Jeffrey's last question. The figures are been telling us that there has been a 20% reduction year on year in murders and other serious crimes in Jamaica since January. I say no more. The numbers speak for themselves. We are now reaping the fruits of 6 years of hard work and investment into crime fights. You know, sir, that it's not an overnight thing. You can't swing a magic wand and solve it. It takes time. It takes time. And as a trained FBI operative, you don't become a senior agent like you overnight or in 3 months. I am very sorry, sir, but we're going to have to hold this. Jeffrey, as my host.
Plan Secure Jamaica was initiated in 2017. It was spoke about in 2016. 1.2 billion US dollars. The minister said that he's been spending since 2016 for fiscal year 2016, 2017 to 2022, 2023. And you tell me 20%. They said the same thing last year, and look what happened. Look what happened at the end of the year.
I'm saying from 1st of January to today, the 22nd or the 20th of April, we have seen a 20% reduction year on year, year to date in murders.
Okay. So now let me ask you this.
Let us applaud the gains. But Wilfred, please,
let me ask you
no disrespect.
One question. No.
Yeah, once a last question. I have a community of
here's a question
on me.
Here's a question. Not only must the crime stats be low, but you must feel safe. Now, I put this question to you. Do Jamaicans feel safe?
Wilfred, with all due respect, please, I beg you, allow me to answer Jeffrey's last question. I don't want to disrespect my citizens waiting on me. It is 9:30 Yes, Jeffrey.
Yes, as a former Minister of National Security, were you or are you aware of any police station operating, or should I know? Are you aware of any police station being operated by the Chinese government in Jamaica?
I am not so aware, sir, but I am not the Minister of National Security, nor am I the Commissioner of Police or the Chief of Staff, and I could not answer that question.
Hold on, sir. No, I said to you, when you were Minister of National Security, anything was brought to your desk about it, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Because it has been, the Chinese government have been operating police stations all over the globe.
Well, I am not so aware, sir. I am not so aware. But Jeffrey, it was a privilege of mine and a pleasure to lock horns with your guest host, the eminent Mr. Wilfred Rattigan QC, or KC, or Esquire. It was my privilege to be with you. I must apologize to your viewers and listeners. I have persons treating with a situation, and I hope that you get their understanding.
Will you come back on my program again, sir?
You know the answer to that. My attorney is present. He has not gotten his retainer yet, but he's now my attorney. He will speak for me, and the answer is yes.
What about my program, sir? You're coming on your attorney's program?
The answer is also yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
So good night.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
It was my privilege and my pleasure. This is Mr. Washbelly saying thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We were speaking to former Minister of National Security, Robert Bobby Montaque. Now, this evening, today, something happened in Jamaica, and I will play the breaking news. This is Make We Talk breaking news. News just coming in the Supreme Court of Judiciary of Jamaica in the matter of Financial Administration and Audit Act. In the matter of access to information, Wilfred Rattigan, on behalf of himself and Jamaicans in the diaspora and Jamaica, has filed a lawsuit against Senator Camelia Johnson Smith and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. That's Mr. Rattigan.
Yes, sir.
Explain to the viewing audience and listening audience, what is this suit all about against the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Camelia Johnson Smith?
Okay. Well, I've been talking about this for a while, and it's something that had to be done. And there are many more things to be done. This is just the first. This is just the opening salvo in the list of things that we have to do, legal things with the court, because we've asked people to demonstrate peacefully and legally. We've asked people to engage their MPs. We've asked people to write letters, send emails, and so on and so forth. We have, and now we're coming up with a plan to approach donor countries, donor agencies, and to set up a legal fund. And finally, we're going to appeal to the court system to rectify some of the wrongs. Specifically, the Senator Camelia Johnson Smith, and this is my contention, received a gift in the amount of $99,000 US, not in cash, in kind. And what's that kind? Consultant services, in her bid to become the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. This happened back in April-May timeframe of last year. And how do I know this? Well, we know this because first let me back up. There was a consensus in CARICOM that CARICOM would support Baroness Scotland from Dominica
for Secretary General of the Commonwealth.
Correct. She already had the post for 4 years, and in the Commonwealth, if you want to extend, they have some kind of gentleman's agreement that, okay, if you're occupying the position and you want to extend, then not a problem. They'll extend you for 4 years. What was that question? Is this a lawsuit against a minister of government in the best party? Well, what happened with and I did it not because of a party. I didn't care. It could have been a PNP, UIC, JBC, MAP. It doesn't matter. Whoever is sitting in the seat of power should be held accountable. And what happened was CARICOM decided to support Baroness Scotland. Jamaica then turned around and said, no. After the consensus was reached, Jamaica said, we're putting up our own candidate. And that's highly unusual.
All because, sorry to cut you, Mr. Rattigan, all because the then Prime Minister of Great Britain, Boris Johnson, for some reason spoke to Jamaica's Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, about something. And Prime Minister Holness decided to put up the Minister of Foreign Affairs as the next Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Go ahead, Mr. Rattigan.
Right. Plus, we know Boris Johnson didn't get along with Baroness Scotland.
There you go.
She's a parliamentary member in England as well. And so that caused a rift in CARICOM. I think there are 15 nations in CARICOM, and I believe 10 nations decided to support the Baroness, and 5 decided to support the Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith. Now, she realized she didn't have the votes. So what she did was she went on a trip to Africa, because most of the members are in Africa. And she went on a trip to Africa, and she traveled all over, trying to,
This is Kamina Johnson-Smith traveled all over Africa.
Yes, to try and get the votes, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what happened was, back in May, the Baroness had said that because there was supposed to be an election in 2020, because that's when her term ended. So she wanted an extension. It would have been granted in 2020. But because of COVID, nothing happened for 2 years. So it was going to happen in 2022. So the Baroness came out and said, listen, guys, support me. I consider myself in the second term, right? Even though she didn't get authorization. But she said, I've been here 6 years, so I just want to do 2 years. Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith said, well, I'm going to run against her, and I want to do 1 term, which is 4 years, right? So you can see there's a little problem already right there for the Africans, because the Africans are taking over the seat next go around. They're thinking, oh, do we wait 2 years for Baroness, or do we have to wait 4 now for Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith? Mm-hmm. So on top of that, the government of Jamaica gave her a budget to go out. I think it's 15 plus something $million to go out.
Of taxpayers' money.
Taxpayers' money to campaign. And then we come to find out later on that individuals and corporations, well, it was described as corporate Jamaica, put up $99,000 to support her in this venture. And the $99,000 was paid to a company in New York, a consultancy firm called Finn Partners Incorporated, to do consultancy work for her to help her to get this job. So that didn't come to light until after she lost the election. When she lost the election, it came to light that monies came from outside and took care of her or went towards her campaign. Now, the way it works in Jamaica is simply this. If you're going to give a gift to the government of Jamaica, or a donation, whatever, you are supposed to, like, let's say, for example, in this case, they wanted to give the $99,000 to help her campaign. They were supposed to contact the government, and they could earmark the money saying, we're giving you $99,000, but we want you to spend this money, give it to Finn Partners, because we want them to represent her in her capacity to become the next Secretary General, to do the PR work, right?
So, Mr. Rattigan, to make this clear for our listeners and our viewers, the $99,000 was given to Miss Kamina Johnson-Smith as a gift from who?
No, it was not given to her. What happened is that the money was paid. Here's what happened. The money was paid to a company in New York to provide services for Miss Kamina Johnson. Minister Kamina Johnson. So she never got, to the best of my knowledge, she didn't receive a penny out of that money. But the way it was supposed to be done, it was supposed to be paid to the government, and then they were supposed to fill out certain forms, certain disclosures were supposed to be made, because that money, because that gift is considered income, and then you have to pay taxes on that. So three government entities would have been involved. The finance ministry, where she would have to declare it as a gift and file it. And they would have to do due diligence to make sure the money is not coming from tainted sources. Then they would have to put it in the capital expenditure budget, account for it. And there are some administrative procedures. That's one. Number two, she would have to declare it March 31st of this year, by March 31st of this year, to the Integrity Commission to say, I received this gift. And in fact, the form specifically asks for gifts. She would have to put that in there and declare it to them so that they can verify her declarations, her financial declarations.
Right.
The third is she would have to declare to the tax administration, say, look, I have a gift of $99,000, and then pay taxes on it because
And
that's ordinary income. My contention is that she did none of that. That's my contention. She did none of it.
And because she did none of that, that prompts you now to file a lawsuit on the behalf of the Jamaicans in the diaspora and Jamaicans at home against the minister herself, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the Ministry of Finance and Public Service. Am I correct?
No. Well, here's the thing. What I'm filing for is this. I'm asking a judge to issue a declaration saying that the minister did not file or record that $99,000 as a gift or a donation, as she was required to do, and therefore she violated the statute and the regulation. That's all. I'm just asking a judge to declare that she didn't, and I've provided the evidence. And how do I know this? Let's take the instance of the Ministry of Finance. I filed twice under the Access to Information Act to find out whether or not she filed.
Mm-hmm.
On long story short, March 30th of this year, the Ministry of Finance, I'll tell you what they said. The Ministry of Finance sent me a letter, and they said at the very end, they said, okay, you filed and you're asking for the gift form, you're asking for the due diligence, you're asking for the estimates of expenditure and the administrative procedures. And here's the conclusion. Please be advised that no documentation exists within the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to satisfy your request. What this means is that she did not file. She did not file. And by not filing right there, two violations. She violated the administrative provision, and she violated the financial statute. Now, from what I can see, there are no real consequence to that. She should do it, but it's not like this. If you don't do it, you're going to prison. There's no consequence to that. But if you don't file, if you file false information to the Integrity Commission, that's a criminal violation. And if she filed and did not include this $99,000, that's a problem. And if she filed her taxes and did not include that $99,000, that's also a problem.
That is 99,000 US dollars.
Yes, 99,000 US dollars. And there are certain nuances to the story. There are certain twists and turns. But suffice it to say that she didn't account for the $99,000, even though Fin Partners in their documents, which is included in my submission, they said, because we're being led to believe that, well, the government of Jamaica had nothing to do with it, and also kind of give the impression that it's much ado about nothing, she wasn't involved. Well, when you look at the Fin Partners document, which they filed with the U.S. government under the penalty of perjury, they said, our client, our principal, the person we're doing this for, is Kamina Johnson Smith. They didn't even put a title. They just said Kamina Johnson Smith. Then when they said, well, where does she, what's her address? 2A Port Royal Street. What's located at 2A Port Royal Street?
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
Exactly. And then when they ask again another question, who she affiliated with or whatever,
the government of Jamaica. It
said Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And then when they said another question, 7 on Exhibit A, that was filed with the U.S. government. Number 7 says, is the foreign principal, meaning Finn Partners' client, is the foreign principal a government, a corporation, blah, 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 or an individual? They check the box individual. And then it says nationality. And somebody typed in, they took the trouble to type in Jamaican. So she's responsible. And there is some other things. There are some other things we have right now that we're not going to reveal at this point in time, because we're waiting to see what they're going to say. Because we have something that I'm telling you, it's a bombshell that we have. So we're waiting for them to come out and provide a response. And based on their response, we will reveal what we have.
Mr. Rattigan, what is the difference between our good friend Wayne Lonesome suit against the Commissioner of Police and your own?
That's a good question.
Because I think people are asking that question right now. You know?
That's a good question. Mr. Lonesome's lawsuit is he's filing to the court and he's saying, Judge, I have a good case why the Police Services Commission and the Public Service Commission should retire Commissioner Anderson. And what I want you to do, Judge, is to give me leave of court. Give me the permission to go ahead and file it. It's called a mandamus writ, to compel them to remove him. So first he has to go to court and present this, and the judge has to listen and say, yeah, I think this is a good case. And then the judge said, okay, I will give you leave of court. You can go ahead and file your papers now, file your writ of mandamus to get rid of it, right? So that's going to take like at least 2 hearings. And it's possible that the judge at the first hearing might say, I don't think you have a good case, so I'm not going to give you leave of court, so you can't file, and that's the end of that. My lawsuit is different. My lawsuit is asking not to remove anyone. It's just for the judge to say, you have presented enough evidence convincing me that she didn't file. And so I'm going to state publicly that she didn't file and she violated the law. That's all. And in fact, the judge doesn't even have to have a hearing, because if you present all the documentation to him, and for example, I presented all the applicable statutes and administrative regulations. I provided the document that Finn Partners submitted to the U.S. government. I provided my request for the ATI, access to information from the ministry, and I provided the response from the ministry saying that she didn't file. So the judge could easily look at that and say, well, yeah, it's clear that she didn't file, so I'm going to issue that. Or the judge could actually bring her in. He could have a hearing. He could bring her in and say, no, did you? Because here's the thing: you cannot get that information from the tax administration, from tax administration, and from the Integrity Commission. That information is considered private, so they're not going to give that to you. But I'm not asking for that information.
Hold on, Mr. Rattigan. How that information can be considered private when Camellia Johnson Smith is a public servant accountable to the people of Jamaica? I don't understand.
No, what they'll do, the Integrity Commission, they'll give you a summary. They won't give you the actual filing because it's considered private. And the tax people, they're definitely not going to give it to you. You can ask, but I surmise that they're going to say no. But here's the thing: I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking for the document. All the judge has to do is call her and say, Minister, did you file for this $100,000 with the Ministry of Finance? Yes or no? Minister, did you file with the Integrity Commission and claim this and notify them about this $99,000 US dollar donation or gift, however you want to classify it? Yes or no? Minister, when you file your taxes, did you claim this as ordinary income? That's all. We don't need to see the document. We don't need to see it. That's all I'm asking for. Or what she should do, she can come out. She can come out now ahead of everything and said, I did file. She can come out and say, I did file.
And based on all of this, when we first started this, you and I first started this program about Ms. Johnson Smith, we hear nothing from the Prime Minister, nor the Minister herself, nor the Minister of Information. They shouldn't say Minister of Misinformation, so that's the Minister of Information. We hear nothing from anyone pertaining to this. So, sorry, let's hope we can hear something this time. And I see where a lot of people are asking the question, do you think that Jamaica judicial system will rein in the minister and say to her, answer question pertaining to this, Mr. Rattigan?
Well, here's the thing. The beauty about the lawsuit I filed is that by statute, there must, not may, or if them feel like, there must be a hearing. If the judge is going to have a hearing, because the judge can rule without a hearing, but if the judge is going to have a hearing, and by the way, we did the minister solid because we could have filed this without telling her anything, but we filed it and she's going to be notified. She's going to get a copy, right? But there must be a hearing according to the law within 4 weeks from today.
Yes.
There must be a hearing within 4 weeks from today. So hopefully next week or so, the judge will issue a date and say, okay, I want the parties before me on this date to address this issue.
Suppose the judge, like, I don't know, not coming in front of me, whatever. What do you do then?
If the judge what?
If the judge don't want it in front of him or in front of her, I say, no, that's stupidness.
Well, then the judges have to give a reason as to why. And here's why it's difficult. It's difficult because the evidence is there. And then you can always appeal it. And of course, there's always the court of public opinion. So people can actually see the documents for themselves, touch the documents, read the documents, understand the documents, and understand that if the minister doesn't want to say anything about it, maybe, just maybe, there is something to be hidden. Maybe they might hide something.
So if the court in Jamaica don't throw it out or whatever.
Plus, another thing is this. Keep in mind that this lawsuit this is not the 50 years ago when you could file something and it's hidden and nobody don't know about it. Once this is filed, it's gone global, right? Think about the damage that has been done to her now when she has to sit down with her counterparts and them know say, wait a minute, this woman are involved in some kind of shenanigans because how is it that money paid, she benefited from the payment of these funds to Fin Partners, but she never claimed it. She never reported to the finance ministry, never reported to the ministry of to the integrity commission, never reported to the tax commission. What I'm saying is that this is my belief based on the evidence I have, that it's unlikely, very unlikely that she filed. If she did file, then come forward and show us the documentation.
But you have asked the Ministry of Foreign, the Ministry of Finance, and they said they haven't seen any document with that.
Exactly.
So that means that she hasn't filed anything at all.
Exactly. 3 things I asked them for. I asked them for the gift form that she was supposed to execute. I asked them for the due diligence that they were supposed to do regarding this gift, and I asked them for the expenditure and the other administrative procedures that were supposed to be followed. And they said there is no document in our ministry that resolves to the 3 things you're asking about. In effect, she did not file.
So can this go as far as up to the Supreme Court not the Supreme Court, the court in London?
The Privy Court? No, there's no need for that, because what happened is that the evidence is right there. Look, the law says file, right? We now know that a group of people gave money to Fin Partners to provide a benefit to her. She's a third-party beneficiary, right? She's supposed to, according to the law, she's supposed to declare that. The ministry to which she should have declared it wrote me and said, we have no documentation regarding that filing. It's simple. It's simple. You're supposed to file, you didn't file. It's simple. So if she filed, she would have filed on the 31st of March. Now, here's a problem. And tell me if this is humanly possible. On the 31st of March, she would have to file the gift form. And then she would have to name all the people. She have to name Grace Kennedy, JMMB, and the other. She have to name all of them. She have to put address, names, and she have to name the people that the Minister of Information say he's not going to tell us because they haven't given him permission to release their names. She's going to have to put all of that down. Then they're going to have to go, the ministry, and do a due diligence to say, okay, where did this money come from? Who are these people? Then they're going to have to account for that in the expenditure account. to say we got 99,000 and account for it in the in their accounting. That's just one ministry, right? Then the second thing she's gonna have to do that day on the 31st is report that to the Integrity Commission. The third thing she's gonna have to do on that day is to report it to the tax administration. Now you tell me if it's possible that she's going to do all of those things on the 31st of March. I have a letter that says up until the 30th of March, nothing was filed. And that came from the Ministry of Finance and Public Service.
So that means she can't file anything now then.
If she files something, well, here's the thing. She already filed because the Integrity Commission, you have to file by the 31st of March. So she already filed that. So all they have to do is look to see, wait a minute, did she include this $99,000? And if she didn't, guess what? That's a material fault. That's filing false information. Because she's filing it and she's not putting down what the $99,000. And if she do it with the tax people, that's tax evasion and filing a false document, among other possible charges. So if she did file it, she has to pay the 25%. I believe it's 25% on that $99,000 US. So she has to come out of her pocket with $25,000.
Our taxpayers pay it again.
Well, taxpayers shouldn't pay this one because this was a gift that came to her. And how do we know that she benefited? When I say gift came to her, meaning that the services came to her. How do I know this? Fin Partners said it.
But let me ask you a question. You've been a U.S. attorney. If something like this should happen in the United States Congress, what would be the outcome of the congresswoman or congressman?
No, lots of problems. You have the ethics committee. You have the if it's in DC, you have the U.S. attorney who would be on there. But no, this would be a scandal like you wouldn't believe. This would be a scandal like you wouldn't believe. That you get a gift or a donation in kind. In kind. She didn't get the cash. She got services to the tune of $99,000. And you don't report that on your taxes, Integrity Commission, Finance Ministry? No, sir. No. She's looking at some serious charges.
And that is why I'm not switching from this conversation, Mr. Rattigan. That is why we keep on saying to our fellow Jamaicans, do not sit idly by and allow them to form a constitution for themselves, where they give the Prime Minister the ultimate power. In our constitution, it should be that no one is above the law. The minister has done something wrong, and I think she should have clarified this. So that is why we're saying to our viewers and listeners out there, when the time comes for them to present the new constitution to us, we must go through to the fine-tooth comb.
Listen, let me say something. People have asked me, well, where do you think this is going to go? Why you do this? Very simple. It's a very simple answer. A law was violated. It's that simple. And there are penalties. A law was violated.
Because if anybody who lives below Crossroad violate the law, they're held accountable.
Exactly.
So these public servants who are servants of the people are not above the law. We think they are not above the law. And when Wilfred Rattigan and Wayne Lonesome decide to take action in their hands by saying, okay, the Commissioner of Police need to go, the minister need to file this, people are saying not going anywhere. It has to go somewhere. Then the government of the day going to say, you know what? People are taking their constitution and their right seriously.
Look, and I said to the people, especially the poor people, who said that, I said to them, listen, You think if you violate a law, them going to say, oh no, a John Brown man, nah, no bother with him or not. You think them all give you a blight? In fact, they shouldn't give you a blight. Because that's why we have laws. We have laws to preserve order in the society. We have laws so that people don't, as guardrails, so that people don't start doing what they want to do. Because once you start doing that, you have chaos and confusion and anarchy. We do that for good governance. We have laws so people can abide by these things, right? And so when you violate the law, doesn't matter who you are, you should be held accountable, particularly if you're a politician, because you are supposedly a leader and you're supposed to set an example. So what we need to do with this case is we need to make an object lesson out of the minister so that people below will understand that she's not immune from facing consequences of breaking a law, and therefore you are not immune. Because if this can happen to her, it can happen to you. That's how and it's only fair and it's only just that if you violate the law, then you deal with it. You deal with it. I am waiting for the response. I want her to come and say, I filed. I want her to come and say, I filed. Because I have a bunch of questions. And here's the thing. If she filed, I have a whole set of questions. If she said she filed.
So if right now, if the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, because the Prime Minister already hear about this, and I think you know why I said the Prime Minister already hear about this. You see? And I'm pretty much sure the Minister herself heard about it too.
Yeah.
If they should reach out to you, Mr. Rattigan, and say to you, Wilfred Rattigan, we have papers to show that we filed.
Yes.
And you said, would you invite them on your program to clarify all of this?
I've been inviting them before the filing. I've invited a whole bunch of ministers to come on, and nobody wants to come on. So, if they said they filed, then produce the evidence. Produce the evidence that you filed. My contention is that based on the letter I got dated March 30th, she didn't file. So that means she would have to file 1 day later. She'd have to file. Somebody would have to call her and say, listen, you need to come down here. And then guess what? If they filed, then I'm going to file another access to information and say, tell me who gave the money for this campaign. And remember now, they don't want to give us the names.
Yeah, because Minister Morgan refused to tell us
exactly
if it is Tavares Media Group or Rattigan Media Group.
He gave us 3 names, and when the opposition leader asked him about the others, he said, no, those people have not given me permission to use to utter their names in relation to this. But if she did file, then she's going to have to name all of those people. And remember, no, you can't lie on these government things. You can't lie, especially if you're a politician. You can't, and a leader, you can't lie. So she's going to have to name those names, and that's why I want to see those names. Because here's what happened, Jeffrey. Here's what happened. Think about this, and the listening audience, the viewing audience, want to think about this carefully. What if the people who don't want to give them names, what if one of them turned out to be SSL? What if one of them turned out to be SSL that financed this campaign?
It's Mr. Rattigan, you're touching a very, very, very important point there. Suppose it is SSL who gave some of that money. Under Jamaican law, what do you think would have happened there, Mr. Rattigan?
Jeffrey, my brethren, I don't know what to tell you. Because what happened? The SSL debacle started before. So if they had done their due diligence, they would have realized that, wait a minute, we can't take money from SSL because SSL under scrutiny. You see what I'm saying?
And we already have information that money channeled through Mexico, through to St. Lucia, into Jamaica, to SSL.
Anything is possible. So that's why we say we need to see the names. all of those investors, including Usain Bolt, would be interested to know, and all of Jamaica would be interested to know, did SSL provide a donation or a gift to the minister's campaign to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth? And if they did, what's the motive behind it? Why did they give it?
As a matter of fact, why did Grace Kennedy give it? Why did the JMB give donation towards it? What are they getting?
You see my place, so people don't get dead for hungry. Why Grace Kennedy not go down at Balma G Primary School and give out lunch to the kids them down there? Why they not gonna do that? Why? You are help one Jamaican, one Jamaican in a position where it really, when you think about it, the Commonwealth can't do much for Jamaica, right? But you have a chance to take that money and go down there and feed a whole school a picnic.
And as a matter of fact, Mr. Rattigan, the Jamaican people did not ask for Camilla Johnson to become Secretary General.
That's true.
The people knew nothing about it.
That's true.
And the Prime Minister.
The people spent upwards of 40 million Jamaican dollars for this campaign and the trip to Kigali that all of them take.
Yes.
And a whole bunch, it was a boondoggle because you had people like the ambassador, the Jamaican ambassador to the United States, who was on that trip. Where she had to Kigali? It's mentioned in the newspaper. This is not me, I make it up. In the newspaper, they said that she went to Kigali.
And one person traveled from the Jamaican High Commission to another High Commission just to take pictures.
Oh, yes, and that is without a doubt. I have witnesses to that. If anybody believes me, I lied. I have witnesses to that. I have people who actually spoke to the photographer. I know the photographer. I personally know the photographer. And I know people who know the photographer. And they were in Ghana when he was there taking pictures. And them ask him, where ya do ya? Kind of Europe you there? Where ya do ya? And his answer was, them come if you take picture because she said that she looked good in the picture them when me take. I remember, them have GIS and staff, Them have a whole heap of people with camera,
And phones and everything else.
Yeah. iPhone take beautiful pictures.
There you go.
Look on the picture behind me. That picture they look like it's a photographer take it. And is that one of my brethren down a firehouse use him camera and take that and send come give me. I say, see your yard, yeah.
You touch on something important that has me here scratching my head. I wonder if SSL has something to do with any donation towards the minister's campaign to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth. You touch on a very important point, Mr. Rattigan.
Mr. Some people are big me up here,
Go ahead,
on social media. Some people are big me up. Some people say, commendation to the citizen Wilfred Rattigan for this act of citizenship responsibility. I look forward to the matter being heard and the outcome. Did the minister break the law by failing to file? Did the Ministry of Finance fail to exercise its fiduciary responsibility? And somebody said, we need more citizens to participate in holding government accountable. Good going, Mr. Rattigan. Somebody write, I applaud this Jamaican patriot. Blah, 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 blah. And no. Yeah, man. Yeah. And by the way, this is just the beginning, because we are working on can I bust out as like a secret?
Go ahead. The program is Make We Talk and
Make We Talk. All right, Make We Talk. Yeah.
Hold on there. You have a breaking news coming up?
Yeah.
Hold on, man. Make I put it here. Hold on, Mr. Rattigan. You hold a minute there. Since you have a breaking news, man, let me put the breaking news. This is Make We Talk breaking news. Go ahead.
Yes, breaking news is that there's a group of us in the diaspora, a small group of us in the diaspora, and we're working on bringing legal action against the Prime Minister. We're going to try to force the courts to take certain action against certain individuals involving the Prime Minister's involvement in certain things.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're working on it right now, and pretty soon it will be filed. It will be filed pretty soon. It will be filed.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Let us run a breaking news again. This is Make We Talk Breaking News. Wilfred Rattigan and members of the diaspora is saying that they're going to file a lawsuit against the Prime Minister of Jamaica. That members of the diaspora is going to file a lawsuit against the Prime Minister of Jamaica and everything else in between. Go ahead, Mr. Rattigan.
Yeah, we have some information, and what we're doing right now is we're collating, we're analyzing, and then at some point we're going to be filing. And this is very, very serious stuff. Very serious stuff. And so if I were the Prime Minister, well, I'm not. What I should say is that I think the Prime Minister, once he hears this, he will have some sleepless nights, because as the saying goes, a guilty conscience needs no evidence. You know what you've done wrong, and you know that we're like bloodhounds, and when we get on the trail, we don't ease up. And that's what's going on here. Because he knows what he's done wrong. He knows. And we believe that there are certain things that at this point in time we can prove. I know of one instance where I can actually prove it. But what we're doing is we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, so that when we file it, there'll be no question. Like this filing today, nobody can argue with me, because what happened is that it's not like I am writing that Jeffrey told me that, Lonesome said that, Herb said that, the minister didn't file.
Mm-hmm.
Not like that. This is all documentary evidence. It's showing the law, it's showing my inquiry, and it's showing a response that she didn't file. So if anybody want to argue about what I did today, argue with the paperwork, argue with the documents. Don't argue with me, because it's not me saying it. It's the Ministry of Finance telling me that she didn't file. The Ministry of Finance said the documents that you're requesting regarding the filing that should have been done by the Honorable Minister, we have no evidence that those documents exist in this ministry. And the law says, the regulation and the law says that those documents were supposed to file where? Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance said, we don't have them. So don't argue with me. Read the complaint, read my affidavit, and then when you finish, look at the exhibits. I'll tell you something. There's a very, very high-ranking politician today who wrote to me and said to me, what I'm doing is nonsense, right? Yeah, he said it's nonsense. And I said to him, he said, why am I doing it? And I said to him, why not? I said, laws and procedures were violated and can be proven. It's about time good governance take a front seat. And he wrote back and he said, I thought that she answered and took care of all of these issues before. And I wrote him back and I said to him, before you take a stand, please look at the exhibits, including what Finn Partners Incorporated submitted to the U.S. government and what the Ministry of Finance said about the required filing that was not submitted. And after you're done, let's talk.
And let me make it clear. The only radio station in Jamaica that run this breaking news about Wilfred Rattigan filing a lawsuit against Camellia Johnson Smith was Roots FM, Roots 96.1
Big
FM.
up Jeffrey and Roots FM.
And also the Make We Talk program.
Big up Make We Talk.
Yes. Mr. Rattigan, you need to tell us now what you said that members of the diaspora is planning to do, because we have some more people joining us both on Jam Talk Vibes Radio and also on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tabaras YouTube channel, who is just joining us. We're gonna run the breaking news again, and you're gonna speak to us. What you have planned to file a lawsuit against the Prime Minister. This is Make We Talk breaking news. Go ahead, Mr. Rattigan.
Well, what we're planning to do is, the Prime Minister has been accused of being involved in a lot of things, and it's just allegations, and anybody can make any allegation, right? Anybody can allege anything. The trick is to prove it. Now, what we have is information that we can prove at least one allegation. We can prove it. We can prove one allegation, and so rather than threaten or carry on, or what we're doing, we're going to go to court, because it looks like our only recourse is to go to court. Because when we talk to people, them don't listen. Them ignore us. And then you have the 7-day wonder, where a story has legs, and the legs them drop off after 7 days because they're overtaken by another story or it's buried. That's not going to happen around here. That's not going to happen around here. We're going to keep on top of the stories. And we're going to keep on top of the stories until we get what we need before we publish the stories. We're not going to publish stories prematurely. We're going to publish stories when these stories are ripe and fit to be published, meaning we have the evidence, and then we can submit it to the public and say, look, read it for yourself. Read it for yourself. So I know the Prime Minister is probably sitting there thinking, what the hell is this? No, if you have done nothing wrong, Mr. Prime Minister, I wish you a restful night in bed. But if you have done something wrong, and we all have, and if you think that it's serious enough that it's going to come to court, and to the court of the court of law and the court of public opinion, then what I would suggest you do tonight is don't sleep. Try and come up with a defense. Try and think about all the things that you've done that we could possibly tell a court and tell the public and prove. Think about all of that. Spend the night thinking. Bring all the advisors and sit down and go through everything that you think you possibly could have done, might have done, and then you let us know. Well, you don't even need to let us know. We will let you know in due course. We will let you know. Because when we're going to drop it, we won't give any notice. We're just going to drop it just like how we dropped the one today. We'll just drop it and that's it. Or somebody said if he was sleeping, he's wide awake now. Yeah, the Prime Minister needs to pay attention around here. Needs to pay attention.
Indeed.
Yeah, man, because the days of doing things and things get swept under the rug, those days are over. Over. And so we're gonna be moving forward with our thing. And by the way, the Prime Minister is not the only person. We have other people. That we're looking at. And pretty soon we'll be drafting documents for them as well. Do
we have anything against the Governor General?
Well, as I said before, I'm waiting for the king to be installed. Once the king his coronation is over, I have a well-written letter that I'd like to send to him about the Governor General. It might be moot because they might get rid of the Governor General if they turn over if they move from a constitutional monarchy to a republic by then, which I doubt very much.
No, because the king thing gonna happen sometime
next month. It's next month, yeah.
Next month.
Yeah. So I have a very nice letter for the king.
Yeah.
And it's going to be detailing everything, and it's going to be constitutionally based. And it's going to be about stuff that the Governor General did, and I can prove that he did those things. And that the things that he did, they're in violation of the Jamaican Constitution. Those are the things that's the thing that I'm going to send to the king. So if the Governor General is listening, tell him that if he gets a call from his boss anytime in May or June, it's probably because of what I did.
And as a matter of fact, when we know the king gets the letter, we'll be having a copy of it in our newsroom at Make We Talk and also at Roots FM.
Of course. That goes without saying.
To tell the Jamaican people what is the details of that letter.
Yes. Because you see, we not only talk around here, But whenever we talk, it's not idle talk. It's talk based on research. It's talk based on intelligence. It's talk based on information. It's talk about things that have been verified. So when we talk with authority. We don't just talk like like it's a scandal sheet or and just talk for the sake of talking. No. When we talk with a purpose. And so the Governor General, Mr. Allen, sleep tight, because you won't be sleeping tight much longer, because when the king get this letter, I am 100% sure you'll be getting a call from him. You will be getting a call from him.
Wow. Mr. Rattigan, your final, as we're going to wrap up now, is 11:11 in Washington, D.C. It is 10:11 in Jamaica, 11 minutes after 10 o'clock in Jamaica. Wherever you're listening, watching from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean, this is Make We Talk on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. There has been some bombshell drop here tonight. We're talking about Chief TAKYI with the former Minister of National Security, Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary Robert Bobby Montaque, and also my good friend, my brother Wilfred Rattigan, who filed a lawsuit against the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and the Minister herself, Camilla Johnson-Smith. Mr. Rattigan, your final word to your fellow countrymen.
Final word for tonight. Final words are these. Good governance means something, should mean something. Good governance shouldn't be something that you just spout off the top of your head and then you move forward and you forget about it. And you only say it when it's convenient, but you don't do anything about it. Good governance means you have to roll up your sleeve and you have to do things for the people. Good governance means that you have to comply with the laws. The laws were drafted, promulgated, issued for a reason. You have to comply with the law. It doesn't matter who you are. We hear the saying, no one is above the law. Well, let's prove it in this case that no one's above the law. Not even the minister is above the law. And therefore, it is my quest. It is our quest in the diaspora. And also with the well-meaning people of Jamaica, that we hold our government accountable. Because if we don't hold them accountable, then we shouldn't expect anything from them. We shouldn't expect anything. You elected them for a particular purpose. They should serve that purpose. And that purpose should be to serve you, to comply with the laws, to provide education, to provide housing, to provide infrastructure, to provide all the necessary things you need, Jamaica needs, to function as a society. And whenever they violate that trust, whenever they violate the laws, we have to hold them accountable. And so I look forward to my day in court. I am waiting for the judge to issue that hearing date, which will take place within the next 4 weeks from today. Because depending on the answer we get from that minister, we have additional evidence we haven't put in our moving papers. And it's going to be very, very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. The best thing the minister can do at this point is to come to the Jamaican people openly, honestly, forthrightly and say, listen, I made a mistake. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I'm terribly sorry. I will make my filings and we'll move on. I will live with that. I can accept that. And I say to my fellow Jamaicans, if that is the case, we should accept her apology and then move on. But until we get that, there's no easing up. No easing up around here, because around these parts, there's no 7-day wonder. No story going to come and die here. We're going to revive stories. And if we don't talk about the stories, simply because we're working on getting the stories in a position where we can actually take them to court and deal with them in a legal way. But just because we don't talk about a story doesn't mean we're not working on a story. So no story is going to come around here and die. So people, keep the faith, keep strong. We're there for you. And if we don't have any information, because a lot of you are calling and give me information, continue to keep the information coming, because that's the only way we are going to make change. Because I understand when you can't do it because of fear or whatever, but there's no fear around here. No fear around here. So send me the information and I have and I will verify the information. And if the information is verified and is true, then rest assured that it will be published. Thank you very much. Godspeed. God bless Jamaica.
Before you go, Mr. Rattigan, I had a program with our good friend out of South Africa, the ambassador for Interpol, Andy Mashiley, about secret police stations in America. Do you believe that the Chinese are operating secret police stations in Jamaica?
Look, I think they have a Confucius Center at UA, which is the Chinese way of spreading their influence on campuses throughout the world. And I believe they have one there. Not sure. I believe they have one there. And if they have one there, when it's a police station, I wouldn't say a police station. They might have intelligence officials collecting information on Jamaica and Jamaicans. So it wouldn't surprise me. In terms of a structure, and it's a Chinese police station, no. But in terms of the actions of an intelligence officer, of course. Of course. Without doubt. First of all, think about it. Hey, you know, I know that you mentioned it. You know, it's probably the biggest Chinese police station there.
Where?
Take a guess.
In America?
No, man. The biggest one in Jamaica. You know which part it there?
Central Police.
No, that you mentioned it and tell me say my police station. You know which part it there?
No.
2A Port Royal Street.
Oh, yes. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs building. Because they have bugged that left, right, and center.
Rest my case.
They have bugged that left, right, and center. My fellow Jamaicans, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. You know, for all those cares have been our concern. The work goes on, the cause endure, the hope still lives on, and the dream for a better Jamaica shall never die. May God bless you, and may God bless Jamaica land we love. Mr. Rattigan, I don't think you've ever heard this song before, sir, but you have to listen to the song before you go.
Give it to me.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people.
I must say thanks to our good friend.
Wicked, my boy. Wicked.
Yes. I must say thanks to you. Thanks to you, and thanks to Reggae Global Radio owners. Our good friend Ed Robinson and his wife.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are trying to figure out who's Ed Robinson. He's a well-known singer who sing oh my God.
Yeah, I forget.
What are the songs, man?
Yeah, I forget the big hit with that man. I'm singing a song. Big hit. Yeah.
Yes, he's from Jamaica. He's a Jamaican by birth, and he made this song for me. It's a copyright song, and he made this song for me, all because I asked my good friend Wilfred Rattigan, I need a song, and Ed Robinson ended up putting pen to paper and write this song for me, and I must say thanks to him and his Reggae Global team and his wife, who guided me through all of this.
Yeah,
I must say thanks to them.
Wicked.
So this is where we say good night to everyone once more.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe.